make everything look good, including being overweight. So, scientifically, you cannot drink alkaline water and it makes your cells athletic. The closer you are to nature, the healthier you'll be.
All right, and happy Saturday, everyone. You are in the Mind of Nature, hosted by Dr. Zarif, the nutritionist. Thank you all so much for joining us here this morning. We are streaming on Facebook, we are on YouTube, and on Instagram. So come on in, be a part of the conversation. We are having a great discussion today in regards to aging, the purpose of being healthier. Those are some things that we're going to be talking about. Also, why men live shorter lives than women, and also habits that stabilize a youthful, healthy body. We are going to be talking about all those things. So, Dr. Zarif, you want to go ahead and join me here so we can get started? Grand Rising to you.
Grand Rising, it's great to see you, Carolyn, and I am excited and ready to go. We have the wonderful Dr. James is here on the show this morning. Let's give it up. Where's that little clap thing that we have up here? Yeah, it's somewhere around here.
It is
Anyway,
somewhere. Uh-oh.
yeah.
It is somewhere. Let me go ahead and, for one reason, it's not letting me do it. I apologize, Dr. James. There it is.
All right. Yes, sir.
We're
It's really, what you say, Karen?
Dr. James is actually not being seen by the audience right now. I'm not sure why my camera is doing that, but
Okay.
Dr. James will be with us shortly.
Okay, great. Well, we're definitely ready to discuss this. We're going to talk about age, something that everybody. The only way that you can get away from it is die. Everybody else, if you are alive, you will be aging. Now, there's beautiful things about aging if you have that kind of attitude, but it's also there are people that are just simply waiting around to die, meaning that after they finish with their lifetime habits, they seem to have a very difficult time escaping those habits,
Yes.
such as working, such as bringing up children, such as marriage, even in some cases. So now we're looking at how we can actually suggest other things like for instance, always talk about those four very important principles that you can think about. I think Dr. James also has a list of things that we can do to stabilize this wonderful gift of life.
And I have you on now, Dr. James. Here we go.
All right, so we want to bring Dr. James. Oh, all right, she's on it. All right, Dr. James. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to be here. Good to be alive.
Yes, indeed. That's that's the main thing today. I think I'll have in my mind when we're talking about this, because although we'll be talking about the quality of sleep and exercise and those things, one of the things that is so important is that we have life. We can live. So we want everybody to definitely reach out to others and ask them to or share. Okay, we want to share this show because this is going to be very helpful to those who especially ask the question, now what do I do? And many of those people are people that I mean they really, everybody wants to live. I don't think anybody's like, oh, I'm just I just want to die. But it's really a wonderful opportunity. And today, just accept this as a gift from us so that you'll have a better selection of things to do to keep living, and to remind yourself of how important this wonderful life is. So, Dr. James, why don't you go ahead and kick it off, and then we'll let it roll like that. Dr. James?
Okay, thank you for the invitation. Good to be here. And I'd just like to say that aging is just a number. And although it's a number we cannot change, there's something called our biological age, which is something that can be modified. And so, even though you may be approaching 60 or be after age 60 and finding that some things are slowing down your movement, your thinking, sometimes your bowels, sometimes your bladder, a number of things can slow down as we age, how we digest food. But there are modifications, there are things we can make in terms, we can change in terms of our diet and lifestyle that can not only slow down the aging process, but there's some evidence now that it might even reverse it from the biological standpoint. And so we can delve more into that as we get into some of the details. But realize that aging is a part of living. If we actually stop aging, and one way that occurs is we die, and we all would like to live long lives, but not just long lives. We'd like to have a good quality of life also. And there's a term now called health span, which determines that period of time that between life and death where you're not linked to several medications and doctor visits and procedures. And so what we're going to discuss today is going to cover a lot of that for those of us that are, past our middle age. And I'm happy to be a part of that since I'm 68 years old. And so I certainly have some skin in the game here. But this will be a very exciting topic. All
Hey,
right, Dr. Z.
yes, that's excellent. Yeah, well, 68, you're still a baby. You still, if you eat 60 anything, you see, you know, I just turned 70, and it's so, the thing about aging is that, the lessons that we learn through life, because, that's what really makes it either rough. If we to learn from our mistakes, we grow. But if we don't, we repeat those mistakes over and over and over. Life is just a wonderful thing. Just to think about how things happen, how we create things. I actually think we discover things more than we create. Create is a strong word, but I think that when it comes down to finding out the higher ways of thinking, the better ways of loving deeper, thinking higher thoughts, sharing, giving, all of those things. And I am looking forward to talk about some of those things today. Now, when we talk about life, we talk about what is the purpose of it, and in that purpose, what is the healthier decision to make, and decision to make to be healthier. It comes with the eating and being around the right people, deeper sleep, exercise, all that comes with it. But it's not just to live longer. It's to live better, to think clearer, to love deeper, to move freer, and to fulfill your purpose with strength and vitality. Now, health affects nearly every part of the human life, everything that's moving. Health is very important. We start off with physical freedom. People, or healthy people, generally experience more energy and mobility, endurance, and independence. Then we have mental clarity. Mental clarity, nutrition, sleep, movement, stress management, directly, and all of these directly influence memory, your focus, your emotional balance, and decision making. So, yeah, when you are healthier, you make better decisions. You have a better emotional balance. You just don't explode or become very, very depressed or have filled with anxiety, so forth. So we're talking about balance. And then there's emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is a healthier body that supports a more stable nervous system. And we talk about that all the time. Parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system, the CNS, we talk about how this nervous system affects all the things that we do and how our body performs and how we think too. And this is helping people to manage the stress, the anxiety, the adversity, and how to be more effective. Then we have the prevention of disease. Now, this is super important. Remember what we're talking about now is the purpose of being healthier. And the prevention of disease is definitely belongs on the list because many chronic diseases are connected to lifestyle patterns. Better health habits can definitely reduce your risk and to improve your recovery. Then we have quality relationships, and I talk about that all the time because human touch cannot be substituted. Some people will argue that point because they will have the what surrogate dogs or pets, cats and dogs. Some have other animals, and I understand that. So I would agree with that. But human, what I'm speaking of, human touch. Now, those other things that I just mentioned, they definitely can blend with some of the resolutions, some of the ways to manage being alone, being safe, and so forth. But when it comes to human touch, it is something special. From there, we go even to the as far as the quality of relationships. When people feel better physically and emotionally, and they often communicate better, they participate more fully with the family and community life. You notice that people that have a real good balance of that community life and reaching out, human touch. These people actually, especially if you look in the hospital, those people that may have equal illnesses, the ones that have a better connection with people are the ones that get out of the hospital first, the ones that heal faster, the ones that are more joyful, the ones that have a better outlook on life. So this is awesome. Living with purpose and contribution is just super important. Good health actually gives people the capacity to pursue their goals, and we talk about that all the time. What are you living for? What is your assignment? Why are you here? What's your purpose? And this will help you create and teach and work and travel and enjoy life experiences. So I think I hear a little. Okay. Uh, Kara, were you going to raise something? Oh, okay. Okay. Anyway, let me go right into one more thing. I think that, and some people are preoccupied with this when it comes to life, and that's longevity. Now, living long doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's joyful about, that's the whole idea is to live long, but it is to live better, to live healthier, to live more joyfully. The goal is not simply more years, but more meaningful, functional years. I'm going to go back to Dr. James now. We got a lot to share with you, Dr. James.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll dovetail off what you just said with the functional years, and which again relates to those quality years, because the health systems of America are very good at keeping people alive for a long time now, but they're not. But it's not very good at keeping people well. And
Yeah.
there's a difference. There's a difference there. There's some studies that show there's a gap of 12 years. It's a little, for some reason, it's a little worse for women, although they survive men longer. But there's an average of a 12-year difference between when you die and your quality of life going down the tubes. You being having a lot of chronic disabling problems. We know a lot of people have type 2 diabetes, which over a period of years can really decrease your quality of life. People have heart conditions, kidney conditions. People are obese. And so many of these problems are related to lifestyle and diet. They're not something that we were born to have. Now, yes, genes do play a role, but many studies now show that genes play a minor role. There's something called dictator genes, where almost no matter what you do, you're going to have the disease, whether it's Down syndrome, whether it's sickle cell disease, whether it's Huntington's chorea or cystic fibrosis. Those are dictator genes, so they dictate your destiny often. But even lifestyle and diet changes can modify your path when you even have those disorders. But most of the problems that we see in this country, in terms of the ones I mentioned, like diabetes and heart disease and cancer and Alzheimer's, these are mainly related to a committee of genes, not dictator genes. So there's several different areas on your chromosomes that influence these diseases that are in the top 10 that tend to take us out. So that means we can do something about it. And food plays a big role. And so I want to go into that a little bit. But food isn't the only role. And Dr. Zarif has touched on that to some extent with purpose. People after 60, especially when you retire, sometimes people feel like they lose their sense of purpose. And
Yeah.
if you don't have that, that can actually take years off your life, not only chronologically, but quality. Because some people get downright depressed. They sink into the couch and watch TV all day and eat, horrible foods. And next thing you know, more doctor visits, more procedures, more medications. But the food, I'd like to start on that, and that is that more than 90% of people in this country are deficient in a particular nutrient, and that's fiber. 97% of men, 90% of women. Now, maybe that is part of the explanation why women outlive men by about 4 to 5 years, is they tend to have a little bit more fiber in their diet. But fiber is something that only comes from plants. And we have found that in the standard American diet, about 60 going on 70% of that is highly processed foods. And that's one reason why I think there's been a decline in health in this country. And then about a third of it, about 33% are meat and meat products. Only about 12% happen to be plants, and about half of that are processed plants, French fries and things like that. So there's a serious health problem based on the food we eat. Now, if we change that pie figure and make 70 to plus percent foods that are minimally processed, and we really ratchet down those highly processed foods, especially highly processed meats. There are studies that show that the worst things we can eat are the highly processed meats. Now, that happens to be our comfort food, our traditional, or often cultural food like sausage and bacon and ham and cold cuts, that salami, corned beef. Those are regulars in a lot of our households, but they are very high in salt, very high in fat, and when we cook them under high heat, we expand, we greatly escalate the poisons that food can represent in our bodies. So by ratcheting those things down, eating more whole foods, drinking more water and drinking less sugar sweetened sugar sweetened beverages, we can actually turn this around and our biological age can improve. Now, what is biological age? Right now, there are markers of inflammation that can predict your longevity. And so some of these are something, one of these is called IL-6, interleukin 6. Another one is something called TNS alpha. There's also something called CRP, the C-reactive protein, and that was TNF alpha I meant. So these are markers that can be measured that determine your level of inflammation and often what your level of vulnerability to various diseases, type 2 diabetes, to cancer, to Alzheimer's disease. So that's your biological. Another pillar of that is something called your telomere length. That's the little tips off of your chromosomes. They're kind of like the covers of shoestrings, so they kind of keep things in order. But for some people, if they're shortened, then that means a shorter life. But scientists have found that you can actually lengthen those telomeres, which means you can lengthen your life by making some of these changes in terms of diet and lifestyle. I'll send it back to you, Dr. Z.
Yeah, thank you very much. That is awesome, man. That's ooh, I love the dictator genes. We get into that, but I mean, just the explanation of having different genes, because some people, and probably most people that are listening right now, it just after they hear genes, it's a very general thing. It's not like what we got different types of genes. It's just like when you talk about certain hormones. In a woman might think that it's just, oh, we just got hormones, or it's just this general statement, but with a little specificity, that really brought that home. Thank you for sharing that. From a broader perspective, health is a form of stewardship, and the human body and the mind are just in interconnected. They're interconnected systems, and caring for them through nutrition and movement and sleep and healthy environments. All of these are things that are just simply just wonderful and great for the body and long life that is also accompanied by positive habits that helps people to operate closer to their potential. And many people don't live up to their potential because they, as Dr. James said, that they're in sit on the couch and they eat chips, and they some people stay in the house so long that they get to the point where they're like, I'm not going outside today. And then one day turns into two, and two turns into a week, and a week turns into months, so forth. So they become recluse, and they're not living. They're struggling. They're in the struggling mode, which complements eating the stuff that they eat, because you eat differently when you're suffering. So this is so wonderful. Now, for many people that are becoming healthier is ultimately about reducing suffering, increasing freedom, protecting future generations, and creating a life with greater balance. You hear me say that all the time. Balance is super important. Joy and purpose. You notice I didn't say happiness. Happiness is something that's temporary. For instance, you just had a great meal, you're happy, you're full. And then guess what? It's not going to last a long time. You're going to digest that food, you're on to the next thing. But joy is something that that lives on. It's in you. It's something that is a part of the way that you live, a part of the way that you feel, and is ongoing, not something that's temporary. Okay, so let's talk about Dr. James. We were definitely we need to talk about this. This was great. When women outlive men, and guess what? That's all over the world, not just in the United States. On average, men tend to live about 5 to 7 years fewer. They don't, women, in other words, they live 5 to 7 years more than men. I don't know if that's a big thing to some people, but imagine zero having no, like right now, if you were told that you can choose between 0 and 7 years to live, I think most people in most cases would say, yeah, I want to live longer. So the 5 to 7 fewer years that men live in our country and in other countries, there's some things that I guess we can discuss about that, because there's definitely a gap that varies by country and lifestyle, income, that's super important, healthcare access, and the time period is super important too. But the pattern is consistent worldwide. It's not just in our communities and just the United States. Recent United States data shows that women living roughly 5 to 6 years longer on average. Now, there are several factors that contribute to this difference. Now, one is the higher rates of cardiovascular disease in men at earlier ages. Did I go too fast with that? higher rates of cardiovascular disease in men at earlier ages. So that, and of course, cardiovascular diseases lead, as far as fatalities are concerned, in America. Greater risk taking behaviors such as dangerous driving, violence, and substance use. All of these are also some factors that contribute to the difference in that how long a woman living 5 to 7 years longer. Also, occupational habits. I remember women in general were saying, like, I can do anything a man does, and I don't need a man. I do it myself, you know. All of these things, although they sound like maybe they're not harmful, and they may be true in a lot of people's lives, but do you also notice that the cardiovascular disease in women also rose over the last 25 years because they've been spewing, they mean in general, that they can do exactly what a man does, and they don't need a man. Well, guess what? They also have been getting the diseases that men get as a result and a consequence of making that decision and thinking like that. I'm sure you can leave some comments and tell me what you feel about that. Um, then we have lower healthcare utilization. And this is where men are just statistically less likely to seek preventative care or early treatment. And we go through that all the time because you got guys who say, I'm a man, I don't need that. You know, I'm a man. You know, what the hell does that mean? You a man. It's time to make decisions to take care of yourself and act like one. Meaning that some of the things that you could do, my brother, is you can go and make sure that you get checked up, make sure that you are taking advantage of preventative medicine, preventative health care, and this will help you to understand that more people die from not being checked than people that do. And those people that go in for examinations are likely to live longer and likely to heal faster than people that don't. Now, there's some exceptions there, and I know if you're a holistic thinker, it's a little bit different than allopathic, and allopathic is a little different than Ayurvedic, and Ayurvedic is a little different than Chinese herbal medicine. But we have the responsibility to do the preventative things, and this helps tremendously. Now, the lower healthcare utilization, as I was talking about, uh, um, this will definitely, as soon as you move, you're not going to change, and things won't change until you change. Let's put it that way, okay? Stress and emotional suppression, for instance, which can affect mental and physical health. So if you're in this a place where everybody's cursing at each other and there's no respect, you know, violence, a lot of noise, that's where people in that, they either move from those communities or they become those communities. And then another point that I would like to share with you are the biological differences. And this again, we're talking about the several factors that contribute to the difference. There are biological differences in men and women, although you might hear that I can do anything that a man can do, and I'm not making fun. I'm just saying that it's a fact. But these biological differences, including the hormonal and the genetic factors, may give women some kind of protective advantages earlier in life. I'm just saying, who knows? There are some things that I know this, that men and women have huge differences. It's not just a couple things. You see it like even with sports. So women playing football, some were big and just thought just because they were big that they could get on the field with male football players. It's just like having male and female boxers. It's just unfair for so many reasons. Lifestyle patterns strongly influence how large the gap becomes. Men who maintain their plant-forward nutrition, their regular exercise, healthy body weight, the quality of their sleep, strong social relationships, stress management, and preventive medical care. I cannot stress that enough because there are so many good reasons. You have newer equipment out, safer, painless. You have ways that you can get examined now without a lot of stress, meaning that some things now you can do via telemed. You can talk to your doctor right on your desktop or your laptop, and or your phone, and still have a meeting. There are questions that they don't you don't need to go in for an examination, but it's good to have a great relationship with your doctor. Wow, that was great. I'm going to go ahead and go to Dr. James, and after that, we're going to bring the wonderful Care back up.
Okay, thank you. You covered quite a few points there that can explain the differences we see between men and women in health and longevity. A couple other ones would be that men do tend to accumulate more visceral fat, and you might ask, well, what is visceral fat? Well, visceral fat is that fat that forms around your organs, like your liver, your kidneys, your intestines, your pancreas, and it's not always something you can see. I mean, actually, it's on the inside, so it's very difficult to see. A lot of times, what we see is what was called subcutaneous fat, the fat that's under our skin. But the more lethal fat, the fat that has more of an influence on our health, on our cardiovascular health in particular, is the visceral fat. And visceral fat is like a inflammation machine. Once you kind of reach a threshold of that, it becomes something that spews out pro-inflammatory substances that tend to keep us on edge, tend to keep certain hormones out of balance, tend to drive something called insulin resistance, which is a precursor to diabetes, type 2 diabetes. So that's another thing that men are more impacted by. The other thing is poor lifestyle habits. We've kind of men have kind of cornered the market on that. We tend, as Dr. Zarif I think mentioned, we take higher risks. We tend to delay going to see our doctors. Men don't go to see doctors until something's fallen off the body. We treat our bodies like rental cars, whereas women, you know, they treat their body more like their own Cadillacs. So we have a lot of catching up to do when it comes to that, getting our prostate screening, getting at age 40 or 50. It's really a lower age now, and especially black males need to make sure they get their prostate screened, and the screening for colon cancer has gone down another 5 years to age 45. So, and there's a reason for that. More people are having colon cancer, not just blacks, more people in general. But when we get the disease, often we're presenting, especially men, with it in the advanced stages where it's more difficult to turn around. Now, the best way to avoid all cancers is to take preventative measures and not get cancer. And so by making modifications to your diet and lifestyle, things I've mentioned already, and Dr. Zarif has mentioned on many of his shows, having more of having a plant-based lifestyle is crucial, and really reducing those highly processed foods. So those are some of the things. Other ways that men have often been impacted and it's a smaller but significant way, is that men are more likely to commit suicide than women. And it used to be said in various social circles, well, black people don't commit suicide. We rarely do that. But actually, that rate has significantly inclined. I think we are uniquely pressured by some things going on in this country and around the world that causes chronic stress, which causes chronic inflammation, which can cloud our thinking, which can lead to more depression. And so we need to take more care of ourselves, not only physically, but emotionally and mentally. And that's something that can be achieved by by enhancing the pillars that lead to better health. And
Yeah.
food is a part of it. When you eat more fruits and vegetables, there's less mood issues. And there's an improved gut microbiome, which we're finding out more and more is crucial to good health. But then there's also exercise, which maybe we'll have a little time. The time is going real fast, but exercise, consistent exercise, is crucial to that also. Not only for the maintenance of muscles and your cardiovascular system, but for your brain health, for controlling inflammation, for controlling your metabolism better, for having more balanced sugars. Having regular exercise, and it doesn't have to be an insanity workout. It could be just brisk walking 3 to 4 times a week, and having it mixing that up with some strength exercises too, where you use either rubber bands or some weights, giving your, as Dr. Neil Barnard says, giving your bones and joints a reason to live. We need to do those things, as well as avoiding as many toxins as we can, especially those in food. That's where we get most of our toxic exposure. But also, trying to have cleaner air and cleaner water. We don't have as much control over those things, but there's some choices we can make. And, make sure we're having restorative sleep. And so we may be able to go into more of those details, but there are lots of things that we can do that can change the trajectory of our lives when that direction is going down. And for many of us, when we get to our 60s and beyond, we start seeing that direction going down. If not in our personal lives, around us. How many of us have been going to more and more funerals, hearing about more and more people being hospitalized, more and more people needing chemotherapy? So it's good to be ahead of those things. If we're not experiencing it, or even if we're in the middle of it, we can start to turn things around with some life choices, some of the things we're talking about today. Dr. Zuri.
Excellent. Wow, 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 man. This is so much fun. I'm having a ball. I'm like when it comes to nutrition, I love it. And Dr. James bringing up out so many wonderful points. We're going to continue on those points. Make sure that you have a way to record it, or you come back and listen to this later, or write it down on your notes. But commit it to your memory and start doing things. Being active or taking action is what makes the difference between learning it and forgetting it, which is just, pretty much entertainment if you do that. We want you to take this and put into action starting now. We're going to go ahead over to Care. Care is all the way in calling us from Los Angeles. No, I'm just playing. Uh, Kara, go ahead and see what we got here. Looks like we got a lot of comments coming in. Thank you.
Yes, we do. And thank you all so much for joining us. Let's see, Leah Long, all the way from Vegas. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us today. James Norman, welcome, welcome. Thank you. We have Denise Kane is here, and we appreciate you. Good day to you. Good day to you, Denise Kane. Akil says, "Love you, Dr. Z. Love you, Dr. Z." And we have
You too.
Watch What the Health. Oh, hello, says go vegan for justice.
Yeah.
Yay. We do also have over on Instagram, we have Yolanda there. And thank you so much for joining us over on Instagram. Oh, I think I almost closed it out. And Yella, I see Yella. Hello to you. Ruth Taylor, welcome, welcome. Thank you guys so much for joining us. There is a question here, question slash comment from James Norman. And that is, what can we do to get more family members to understand this and take action? Because that's the main part, right? And
Yeah.
take action.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You money. We'll do 50-50. Go ahead, Dr. James. I know you're ready on that one.
Well, yeah, I have a few things to say because that's a challenge for me with my family, believe it or not. But I found that first, try not to be judgmental,
Mhm.
because and that's an easy part for me, because it took me into my 50s before I realized that I was
Uh
doing
oh.
things wrong with my own personal life and missing out on what I could be doing in my professional life and helping people along. I'm an allergist and immunologist, and for years I took care of people that had asthma and food allergies and hives, but I rarely talked to them about what they ate. And so it wasn't until my last 8 years of practice I realized that my head had been buried in the sand like many conventionally trained doctors. And really, food and lifestyle changes is at the core of all diseases. And so, of course, my family, we all hold our families dear to us, and we want the best for them. And we gain this knowledge and become motivated and then passionate about these things, but they're not at that level. Many of them are at the pre-contemplative level. They aren't thinking about these things this way at this, but you want to go steady. Now, setting example is part of it. You conquering, these barriers that come up with trying to select good foods and get rid of unhealthy foods. That's a challenge for you. But as you conquer it, you know, you're visible in your family, and so that's important to set the example first and foremost. But that's not enough, as many of you probably can attest to. Just setting an example doesn't make the needle move. So having discussions about the why, figuring out, helping people decide why is it important for them to think about, making better food choices, to exercise regularly, to get proper sleep, to engage in activities socially, especially once you're over 60 and you sometimes get isolated or intentionally or isolate yourself. There's so much going on in the world. But the thing is to engage in conversation about these things and conversation. Many times family members are curious. And so I take advantage of curiosity, and we discuss, this is why I choose fiber containing food that's not highly processed because of A, B, and C that can happen otherwise, because of the sodium that fills these processed foods, because of the oil, because of the sugar. And those three things, they call it SOS, salt, oil, and sugar. That's what food manufacturers by design infiltrate these foods with so that we won't stop coming back. We can't deny them. We have to have them. And so, first of all, that was a big motivation for me. Why should I make these people, these corporates, rich by killing myself slowly? They
Yeah.
don't want to kill us. They don't want to kill us fast. They don't want to kill off their consumers. But but still, we're a consuming population, but we need to turn things around by choosing foods that are healthy. And so, the way I do approach it with my family is by examples I mentioned, by having some discussions, by cultivating their interest. And some of them don't have an interest, but be patient because when you plant that seed of curiosity, when you plant that seed of interest, which they may not display, it may take months or even years to fertilize, to come to fruition. But as long as you kind of stay on course, remember it starts with self. You stay on course, you can find that they'll do better. The other thing is people listen. Family members tend to listen to others more than they listen to their family. So give them some other resources. Tell them we're coming to watch Dr. Zarif on his show every Saturday, and buy his book, and maybe get my book, Fearless Wellness. Give them some videos to look at. There's What the Health. There's that What the Health down there. I think that's Watch Dominion, one of my favorite vegans. But there's What the Health. There's Forks Over Knives movies. You'd be surprised when they see this on video or see these YouTube presentations by people like Dr. Neil Barnard or Dr. Michael Greger. It gets them the knowledge that then can lead to motivation. And what follows motivation is usually action. And what follows action is passion. And when they get to passion, it's self-fulfilling. All
That's
right, Dr. Z.
Man, that's excellent. That's excellent. Is really you said it. You said it. Those are those examples. Setting examples in your family. If you are talking about not smoking and you taking a puff on a cigarette, where you telling the person you got to stop smoking, come on now. And nobody wants to hear that. The thing that's really important is for you to be consistent with it. Remember that when we talk about nutrition, it's like talking about Catholicism. It's like talking about Islam. It's like talking about Baptists. You know, it's a religion. People don't look at it, but you probably heard that nutrition is religion. You know, there's a phrase that people say that because it really clarifies the belief that people have in the way that they eat. And a lot of times, again, if you're listening, if somebody's asking you something, why don't you ask them this also before you go into your explanation? Is this something that you really want to do? Because you can be talking your head off, and then these people's like, man, I ain't think now. Some people have the nerve to chew; they'll be eating on the rib while you talking. You know, yeah, man, you got to stop doing that. I haven't heard yet a person say I was eating rib, it was so good, and then my friend came and he said, or my cousin or my family member, and I put it down just like Dr. James' family, my family too. It's one of those things that first you got to get past being a doctor. That doctor, I'm doing that because when people, doctors are known to be, pretty knowledgeable about many subjects, and they're helpful, and we trust doctors. And but when it comes down to it, you want a person, uh, and this is really hard. We look at doctors that look that's out of shape. There's some doctors don't look like they'll make it up one flight of steps. And then you have, especially those people in bariatrics. You got people in bariatrics that need to be giving themselves their own surgery. But again, that's that kind of thing that you hear as you are out there now, grasping for some answers to the way that you eat and the way that you think that they should eat. You got to, that's why we're talking about all of these things that'll help to strengthen a person, that'll help a person's clear thinking and so forth, because it's not just one thing. And I'm going to leave it there. It's not just one thing. Dr. James just said that also. It's not just one thing. I wish Washington Dominion was up here too. That I'm sure he could also attest to that. But the it's more than one thing. It's a combination of things. Just like it's not just one vitamin. You see how many vitamins there are? And some people like, I just take a vitamin C every day, or I take a vitamin C every other month, or whatever the thing is. But it's a combination of stuff. So you have copper and zinc and cobalt and iron, and you have all of these different. Look at the minerals, all of the vitamins, all the polyphenols. The nutrients are super important, and none of them work just by themselves. There has to be a combination of things. All right? All right, good enough. So I know James, James, you got a lot in your ear today because we really want to be here to, help you on your way to making better decisions. All right, Carrie, you want to any more?
There is a question here, or let me say here. Hello, Eclipse Soleil over on Instagram. Thank you so much for joining us. There's a question here from Watch What the Health, and it says, "How can we debunk NRW?" New is. I'm sorry. How can we debunk the new food pyramid? I'll put it up right here.
Okay, Dr. James, you want to go?
Sure. So first of all, we're talking about the government sponsored food the pyramid that came out. Before that, and they do this every 5 years, but before that, there was a plate, which was to me much more accommodating and easier to understand. When you had the plate that had the four quadrants, your fruits, your vegetables, your whole grains, and your legumes, which are for the most part beans, and then you had your beverage. But now the current government, the Human Health Services, which is run by headed by RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has changed, has gone backwards to the paradigm of the pyramid and turned it upside down. I think you can really perceive that as literally turned upside down.
Yeah.
And so it's an upside down triangle where now there's emphasis on meat and dairy products and butter and things like that that have high saturated fats at the top of the pyramid. And over more to the side are plant based foods and vegetables and things like that. So things have been turned around, and I think the emphasis has been put in the wrong places. And you don't have to dig deep into the science to realize that if you have more butter and cream and dairy products and meat, that you're going to have more saturated fat. And to the credit of the current guidelines with the upside down pyramid, they do emphasize the importance of eating plant based foods. They do emphasize the importance of minimizing highly processed foods. But unfortunately, they also, in the same way, they kind of contradict themselves because, on the one hand, they say limit saturated fats to a very small percentage. Yet, right at the top of that pyramid, as I mentioned, they have meat and dairy and eggs and things like that. And the question becomes, why is that? Why is there this paradox? Why is there this oxymoron? And the reason is because if you look at the makeup, they had to go through two levels to get this revision. One are the scientists, and many of these were the scientists that helped influence the previous food charts and play. We're going in the right direction. Processed foods, less meat, egg, and dairy, more fiber-containing foods that are minimally processed, more water. But it took a big turn with the secondary process of promulgating this new development with the pyramid, and that was they included a committee of people that weren't doctors, weren't researchers. Most of them were corporate related. If they were doctors, they were related to some corporations, food corporations, and so they were able to modify the recommendations from the scientists so that it had at the top of the pyramid, the egg and the dairy, the meat, and then it really diminished the main message there, which should be that we should eat more and that we should eat less highly processed food. Although, as I said, they did mention that highly processed foods should be avoided. But it's something that should be debunked in settings like this. It should be debunked by you doing more research and listening to people that are qualified to talk to you about nutrition, like some of the names I've mentioned, Dr. Barnard, Dr. Greger, there's a Dr. Joel Furman, Dr. Michael Clapper, a number of people out there that really for decades have been giving qualified, authentic, evidence-based information about nutrition. Dr. Z.
Yes, I'm glad that you went over that because one of the things that we deal with, we talking about politics. When you're talking about those dudes in politics, these are usually guys that are really they have deep pockets, and in these deep pockets, what they do is that they pretty much negate really whether something is going to be harmful or not. They're not really concerned with that. You know what they are concerned with? They're concerned with getting paid. They're concerned with having a system that will make us, the general population, their lifetime customers. And that's the main focus. They're not concerned with if something works or not. They just like, hey, that's you. They seem like they're having their life's fun on our dime. You have like RFK, which is I feel sorry for this man. I'm damn near crying listening to him talk. For one thing, how you gonna say the guy sounds like a sick specimen, and he's first of all, that's a bad choice because when you want to talk about people that are healthy, you look at Dr. James, for instance. Dr. James is on the phone jogging, telling you to get up. This is only going to take you a little bit to do this. I'm going to do a half a mile or whatever he's sharing with you. But he's a doctor that is doing the thing that he is asking you to do. Whereas you have most of those doctors that are doing things, they're not doing things that have anything to do with what they're saying. Most of them, as a matter of fact, in the years past, and I don't say this with any disrespect, but they've been older doctors that cannot do anything but talk about maybe their products. But as far as you don't see them jogging, they don't talk about exercise. They don't talk about here you need to get ample sleep. They don't talk about human touch. They don't talk about the circadian rhythm. They talk about whatever needs to be said to get you to get to their product, whatever they're selling. But they don't inspire you that I'm going to work, man, I'm getting this together. And that right there to me is a I think that's a contradiction. You know, if you talk about eating certain things, making you feel good, making you feel vibrant, that feels good. Because I mean, I truly feel much younger than I am. And I don't say that to be braggadocious. That's facts. I feel younger than I am. I don't hang around poor thinking people. I don't hang around poor eating people. I don't hang around poor anything people. If I'm around those things, around any type of people, they're abundant thinkers. They're thinkers that are inspired and people that are spiritual, and those they have those qualities. I don't be around someone that can make me feel like, oh, I'm just throwing away time. Anyway, let's go back to the comments over here. Carolyn, with anybody else?
Yes, we have people in agreement with you. Rachel Taylor saying amen.
Woo.
And then Leah Long saying preach Z.
Well, that's it's me and my brother. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
We getting it done and stuff. Now we appreciate you all, Leah, all the way. Leah is one of my favorites. All the way in Las Vegas. She's been there with us from the beginning. So thank you very much. She loves. She has. What do you call those dogs when they take care of you? Is a certain
Oh,
name.
service dogs?
Service dogs. She has two tall poodles. It's really incredible. But I love dogs. I wish I can't have one in the crib. Maybe it's somewhere I got to graduate to that. So I don't know. But
We
it's,
love them from afar.
yeah. You know, I want to and Dr. James, you're on fire. I love the way you brought up when we talk about the lifespan. I think we're talking about that. Some people think that it's all about a lifespan, but it's not only about the lifespan. Just adding to what Dr. James has shared with us is the all about is lifespan, and then there is a health span. And health span is how many years that people actually live with strength and their mobility, the mentality, stability, and their independence. People that live longer, but they spend many years with and that's today. People are living longer, but they're living longer with chronic disease, man. If chronic disease is that disease that accumulates, and that disease that is over time, it can also lead to other diseases, or slightly fewer years with excellent vitality and function. The modern research increasingly shows that many of the leading causes of premature death in men are heavily influenced by lifestyle and environment rather than just genetics alone. Again, something that has been shared by Dr. James. And that is just awesome, because when we can see these are things we see eye to eye on, things that are if you see big smiles coming from us, because these are things that we know we've seen work We know that if you put it in action and you commit to it, that it will work. But we also know that it isn't easy to get you to start. Your if you've already start your traveling through this wonderful world of eating healthy foods. Look, everything from the farmers. As a matter of fact, I'll give you on June. Write this down. June the 13th, from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. I'm going to be talking at the Grace United Methodist Church, and that is at 4112 Slauson Avenue in Los Angeles 90043. Okay, remember, if you lose it, you can come back to this, and you can get the information from here. There's also the 31st of the 31st coming up. I'm going to also be I got somewhere else I'm supposed to be on. Lamert Park. Yeah, I'll be at Lamert Park this May the 31st, and this will be right in front of the Vision Theater, and I'll be there. We're gonna work out, everybody. Bring your shorts and your sweats and your shoes and all that. We're gonna have chairs there if you want to do workout like with the chair. We got some exercises that you're gonna love. Bring your whole family. Everybody can work out, and that is going to be from about. I thought I saw it up here, but that's like 10. Yeah, I think it's like 10 a.m. To oh no, it's actually 12. It's 12 a.m. to 6 p.m. So keep that in mind, everybody. I'm going to be there. Chef Babette is going to be there. A lot of people in the health field. I know that, Dr. James, if you can, if fly over right fast in your Cessna, that'd be cool too. And we'll have a ball. Dr. James, before we get out of here, it's on you. Anything you want to make sure that everybody knows about, and take it from there.
Well, I just want to thank everyone that joined us this morning and those that will be listening in on the replays on YouTube and other platforms. And thank you, Dr. Z and Carolyn, for having such a great platform for exchange. And I'll just leave with saying that, the topic today was thriving after reaching 60. And even if you're under 60, there was very important information that was exchanged today because you want to get past 60, right? So
Right.
the thing is, you often want, sometimes you're motivated when you engage in these discussions or hear these discussions, and then it's like, okay, what do I do next? Where do I start? So if anything, start with your first meal of the day. You know, if you tend to eat that egg McMuffin, or or just have that coffee with all the cream and sugar, maybe that's where you can start with training your taste buds, as I did, to have black coffee, because you're going to get all those rich polyphenols, that chlorogenic acid. You're going to get that age-defying plant-based substances from that coffee when you don't put the dairy in it, when you don't add the sugar and those creamers to it. So train your taste buds, if you're a coffee drinker, to have it black. Or if you want to have something in there that makes it a little lighter, some plant-based milk, soy milk or oat milk. Those don't tend to negate or neutralize the nutrients in coffee. Coffee comes from a bean. Beans are one of those things in the 5 places around the world where people live longer, the blue zones. They have in common not so much coffee, but the other kinds of beans. But coffee's a bean, and then greens. Have greens in your life daily. Some form of greens. You pick them. Everybody's different in what they like. But some form of greens that doesn't have fatty meat in it. And then make sure you have you have fruit. Berries tend to be way up there and having an impact on your health. Pomegranates have been shown to increase your mitochondrial health and function. Pomegranates. Of course, they have to be in season often. And then make sure you get some nuts and seeds if you're not allergic. You know, nuts and seeds, walnuts tend to be way up there in terms of getting some omega-3, in terms of having antioxidants. You know, they're shaped like brains. If you look like a shell, you look at a shelled walnut, they look like brain. So
Yeah.
they actually can help you. And then, you know, eliminating those fried foods. You know, I don't usually say eliminate things. You know, I usually say reduce and all that. Fried foods are no good. We could spend a whole hour talking about that, but those are the things to really take away. And remember, they're going to be stumbling blocks. There certainly were for me. I didn't just press a button and become plant based. Remember, there will be stumbling blocks, but use the stumbling blocks as stepping stones for you to get to where you want to go, and that is to get on the right journey to better health. It's not a destination we're talking about. This is a marathon, but going in the right progress over perfection is what you'll find will lead to success. Thank you.
That's awesome. You know, you're talking about wonderful habits. Stabilize those habits, everybody. Starts with those habits that stabilize the youthful and healthy body. That this, filled with these daily practices that protect your body from chronic inflammation, hormonal imbalance, metabolic disease, and accelerated aging. And usefulness is the not the all about your appearance. So youthfulness is all about your attitude also. It's about the way that you feel. How can you feel like you are in great shape if you're listening to somebody that's dragging and they're barely making it through the sentence? And you have people that, like you got like people now, I won't say their names, that are on TV making millions of dollars talking crap, and the crap leads to, again, their particular product. So don't get caught up in that. It's like Dr. James has suggested to you. Like, look at our program, make sure that you know where we're speaking. We give you all this information. Fearless is a really popular book. What is it, Dr. James? Fearless?
Fearless, yeah, fearless wellness, right over my
Fearless.
shoulder there. Fearless wellness.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, make
thank you.
sure that you get that book, Fearless Wellness. And I have my book is I'm Not Vegan, but I Eat Like One. These are books that I'm telling you, they're powerful. They're not big and thick, but they're not Bible thick, but they the information that you need to know to get you started and to maintain that is super important. It's energy, mobility, and it's also mental clarity, emotional balance, recovery, and for cellular health. All of those good things, beans, and all the other things that Dr. James suggested to you, these are things that make your body feel good. We've been taught that when you celebrate, get drunk. When you celebrate, overdo it. Just get to eat so much, drink so much of it that you just fall out. And that is just that should be overdue. You see now with many people that at one time they would call eating certain foods, oh man, that food too rich. Remember that? Anybody remember that? They'll say eating is too rich, and it's usually it was like some cream or it was like some candy, chocolates or something like that. You're eating too rich. Well, rich people were eating some of the worst stuff. They were today. Rich is a whole different thing, but it's really important that you know that you don't need to eat richly in order for you to be healthy. Okay, eating rich is something that you want to be aware of and make sure that you balance that out and get back on your foundational habits, the things that you want to do. Start doing the things that you want to see in your life. Break that imbalance up, get balanced. Start with water, start with getting up stretching, start with eating better foods, and know while you're eating, see in your minds. That's a part of what we're doing now, helping you to color your imagination with all of the ways that you can make yourself healthier. Okay? Oh, this was fun. I knew it would be. I knew it would be. It's always fun. Thank you very much, and Dr. James. It was definitely, as always, a pleasure because you make it happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Woo. So, all right, Care. If you have anything last thing before we get out of here.
Just saying thank you, Dr. James. We always appreciate when you join us here on the Mind of Nature. It's always a pleasure. Thank you to everyone that joined us here um, in the Mind of Nature. We were streaming on Facebook, on YouTube. Instagram tends to cut out a little bit quicker. There was a question that I had from Eclipse Soleil, but I can definitely uh, put that in rotation as far as something else that can be asked. But for everyone, thank you all so much for the comments, the shares, and just being a part of the conversation. We appreciate all the comments and everything. So, um, Dr. James, again, thank you so much. and, doc- and Dr. Zarif, I'll throw it back to you.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm Dr. Zarif, the nutritionist.